Come see us do stand-up in Baltimore, Hartford, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, and San Jose, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for the tickets. So you know how they will debank people like they did to the truckers in Canada, when they were protesting against mandatory vaccines? Oh, they'll do it to people just on content creators. Like they did it to the Gray Zone, right? They took away their money from GoFundMe. They do it to Jackson Hinkle. He's been kicked off Venmo and PayPal, everything, right? And so if you go against the establishment, they will debank you. And now Senate Republicans just legalized it.
Great.
Yeah. Laura Loomer, who's been debanked over and over, she's a big right-wing influencer. She tweeted this out, happening now. Senate Republicans are voting to legalize debanking by voting to remove the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, Elon Musk is against that too. They have a rule that bans payment apps from banning people without cause. So if it wasn't for the consumer that's the one thing that Doge is doing that I can point to and say that is wrong, for sure. We need the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So whatever you've heard about that, it's propaganda. And it's propaganda from people who want to be able to debank you.
Israel again.
And so here's Laura Loomer. I said, I don't want to hear that the GOP call themselves the free speech party ever again. That's Laura Loomer. That's not AOC. So your uniparty is turning against you again. You don't live in a free country. Just so you know.
Who called them the free speech party? What idiot would have called?
So
I don't remember ever saying anything that moronic ever.
Well,
that the
because
Republicans were the free speech party.
Well, because the Democrats got so censorious during COVID, Kurt.
Yeah,
and,
but you know,
and so they kind of ceded that ground to the Republicans. So then people like Elon Musk will let you come on Twitter and talk about COVID and the vaccines, and people like Donald Trump will stand up and say you can say. So they've ceded this, even though they're not really for it, as we've seen right here. Laura Loomer is telling you the GOP is not the free speech party because of this exact thing they're doing. So, what's the thing where you get money? We get it from our website. What's the other thing?
Rockland
Patreon?
cryptocurrency.
Patreon.
Oh, okay.
So Patreon will debank you, and they'll keep your money. So will PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
They'll keep your money. So will GoFundMe.
I think Stripe's a part of that as well.
And let's remember, and Stripe is a part of Stripe. Did it to that guy Simon Atiba, who was the black guy who was confronting Joe Biden's White House. They took
and X uses Stripe, I believe, too. By the way.
Yeah. Yes. So remember this: banks have begun freezing accounts linked to trucker protests. So lots of people have been forced to defend themselves with trucks, and Americans just have guns. But a lot of them are also attached to the back seat of a truck. So keep that in mind. Here is Mark Andreessen, and he was on Joe Rogan a little while ago. And this is what he's about to tell you right now is complete bullshit. So, but a lot of people, and he tricked me at first. And then I saw my Russ and Keaton debunk this. But watch what he says. What he's going to tell you this here right now is all garbage. Watch this.
So, for example, we have this thing called the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB, which was it's sort of Elizabeth Warren's personal agency that she gets to control. And it's an independent agency that just gets to run and do whatever it wants, right? And if you read the Constitution, like there is no such thing as an independent agency, and yet there it is.
What does her agency do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, terrorize financial institutions, prevent fintech, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How so?
just by terrorizing anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services. And
Can you give me an example?
Well, like I said, debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from, is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee who
For what?
For having the wrong politics, for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations.
So who they're going to really go after is anybody who challenges the corporation and corporations of guys like this. So especially if you're going to speak out against Israel, so they're going to debank you they're going to say you're a terrorist because you're supporting terrorism and Hamas, and so there's that. Plus the same thing they did to the truckers. So what he's telling you is he's pretending that somehow the lefties have control over the financial regulations in this country. They do not. That you have to be a jackass to believe that the banks and Wall Street and corporations don't control the banking. So let's keep going.
Okay, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off to kick them out of your bank.
What?
You're not allowed to have
What if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No.
Okay, so he's lying. He's lying about that. So people on the left don't get debanked. Yank. Of course they do. I just told you all the people who do. Gray Zone, Jackson Hinkle, everybody gets debanked on the left. People who they can say, "Oh, you're pro-Palestinian. You're supporting terrorism. You're going to get debanked." So he's just making that up, right? He's trying to make you think that woke politics somehow controls the banking in America. But no, we're talking about people like PayPal and people like Patreon. And people like Stripe and those people who want to do banking without actual banking regulations, and then they can steal your money. So he's trying to pretend that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau are the people doing that. They're doing the exact opposite. And you want to know how? So Elon Musk says, delete the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. There are too many duplicates. So of course he's against it because he wants to have his own banking done through Twitter. And he doesn't want anybody actually making sure it's done in a fair way. Li Fong, he says the CFPB has loudly opposed debanking. So it's the exact opposite. What Mark Andreessen was saying, that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is debanking people, they're doing the exact opposite. The exact opposite. So you're being lied to. You're being lied to by Mark Andreessen. You're being lied to by Elon Musk. Where's the evidence? Left unmentioned in this screed is the fact that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has investigated Andreessen-backed startups for scamming people. So they're scamming people.
Oh,
so
you mean he wasn't being terrorized?
So he wasn't. No, they were scamming people and taking their money. And I'm going to show you how they did it. Not for political speech. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, debanking comes from the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, not the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Wow.
Just so you know. And just so you know, you want to see how much they fight against debanking? I got this from Due Dissonance when they covered this. This is from Li Fang's writing. He says the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, in a legal filing to an appeals court last week, cited the debanking of Christians as a form of the across-the-spectrum discriminatory behavior by financial institutions it is seeking to curb. So what they're doing is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was advocating on behalf of Christians who were being debanked. The new free speech on financial platform push, led by the CFPB director Rohit Chopra, opens up a significant rift within the Biden administration and offers a glimpse of potential ideological realignment. In recent years, activists from both the right and the left have been banned from bank accounts and digital financial platforms over political speech-related allegations with virtually no due process. So like that guy, Simon Abeda, who he was started a newspaper or a news organization. He's from Africa. He had credentials to go to the White House briefing room, and he always challenged Jen Psaki. They debanked him. So he couldn't any longer take donations to his website, which ran on subscriptions, because I think it was Stripe. Stripe debanked him. They said, you violated our terms. And that's it. So left and the right. So this should matter to everybody. And don't listen to guys like Mark Andreessen, who's lying to you because he wants to be able to, he's the guy who wants to be able to debank you and take your money. That's what this is about. And of course, the people with the big money own the government, meaning the senators who just voted for this. As they scream free speech, and then they scream, as he goes on Joe Rogan and lies to you that he's against debanking, he's actually for it. He's actually wants to get rid of the one organization in government that fights debanking, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The issue presents a new cross-current of unlikely bedfellows. Christian conservatives and a flank of Republican legislators are fighting alongside populist Biden administration figures such as Chopra, the guy who runs the Consumer Financial Protection Agency Bureau. So Christian conservatives and a flank of Republican legislators fighting alongside this guy who runs the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau for free speech rights and new protections against debanking. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau wants protections from you being debanked. They are up against an alliance of tech giants, like Andreessen and Elon Musk and Zuckerberg. They're up against an alliance of tech giants and banking lobbyists, along with some voices at the Department of Homeland Security and liberal nonprofits who favor unlimited corporate rights to remove users over allegations of misinformation or hate. So that's who's really being debanked. While many prominent Democrats have embraced speech restrictions, Chopra, the guy who heads the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has charted his own course and reached out to the right. And here he is right now. This is that guy. This is Rohit Chopra. And he's going to tell you about how he's fighting the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the guy that this is the bureau that Andreessen was pretending was the people debanking you. He's going to tell you how he's fighting against it.
Been assessing very large dominant tech firms like Google Pay, Apple Pay, others, as well as some examples of where there has been network effects and tipping points, such as the commonly used Venmo and PayPal services. Many of you might recall how a year and a half, 2 years ago, many people who were users of PayPal's Venmo service received some communications, and there was news about this, about the ability of that company to be able to sanction or fine you, taking money and confiscating it out of your account for your activities or speech that may have been unrelated to payments. In other words, creating a way in which they're setting laws or conditions outside of the democratic process that deny or foreclose access to what is essentially essential payments infrastructure in the society. So I think we should all really worry about how modern day business practices that encourage the accumulations of capital for these network-based businesses with difficult switching costs that cannot really be easily replicated, that are sometimes referred to as winner-take-all markets. At what point do those entities start becoming lawmaking bodies, regulators on their own? And I think,
So what he's saying is that what's happening is people like PayPal, people like Patreon, people like Apple Pay, they're becoming the people, monopolists, who get to control and do whatever they want with your money and steal it without any oversight or regulation. And the only thing standing between you and that is this. And this is what Elon Musk wants to get rid of. Why? Because he wants to set up his own banking at Twitter. And he doesn't want people breathing down his life. And he wants to be able to take your money and intimidate people. That's what this is about. I know that sounds great. Well, that's exactly what's happening.
Roy Andreessen and the other guy, it's what what's his name was saying about the network state, Steve Bannon.
Yes.
He said that's what they want, is this, you're this world of renters and you're under all these different laws.
That's right.
On
So that's exactly what Steve Bannon was saying. These are the techno-feudal lords. So, yes, this guy's, and so let's see if he has anything more to say here. Hang on.
a regulatory agency that is subject to all of the ways in which the Congress can simply pass a law to change through the democratic process. That is not necessarily what we have with these enormous agglomerations of power today.
So, I mean, it's the big picture, the mystery of the missing money that hasn't been resolved because of money. This is from Axios, and I got this from Due Dissonance. They covered this in a much more thorough way. The trustees say that Synapse, which is a company associated with Andreessen, doesn't have to pay for an outside firm to reconcile the ledgers, estimating it would cost between $2 and $3 million. So what happened was, it's not a guarantee that all the funds would be found in a reconciliation process, but it's the best. So this company goes broke, Synapse, while it has your money. Well, let me see this. When startups collapse, the losers usually are direct share stakeholders like investors, founders, and employees. But when fintech Synapse went under earlier this year, thousands of users also were left holding the bag. In some cases, that meant their life savings. Catch up quick. Synapse was a middleman connecting fintechs that didn't have banking licenses with actual banks. It raised just over $50 million in venture capital funding, most recently in a $33 million Series B round in 2019, led by Andreessen Horowitz. Earlier this year, a dispute over an account balances arose between Synapse and the lender Evolve Bank, resulting in Synapse locking users out of their accounts. Synapse's fintech partners bailed and bankruptcy followed. So the guy, Andreessen, is doing the exact thing. He's confiscating your money, and he doesn't want people like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to be able to stop that. And that's why he lied and said that, oh, it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that's actually debanking people. No, he's the one. So that dispute remains unresolved, with the court-appointed trustee estimating that there are between $65 million and $95 million in missing funds. For example, a woman named Kayla Morris so far only has recovered $579 of her $282,000 that she believed was kept in an FDIC-insured account, cash that the mother of three had saved to buy a house. And this company took it. It took it. And so the trustee says that Synapse doesn't have enough to pay for an outside firm to reconcile the ledgers. So now they're saying, oh, well, they went bankrupt, so that lady loses all her money. And Mark Andreessen wants to make sure there isn't a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau around to stop this garbage. So, and this is what the Consumer Financial Protection, this is what they actually do. They saved $19.6 billion. They got $19.6 billion returned to consumers who were screwed over by banks and startup companies like that, and by people like Andreessen. Approximately monetary compensation. 195 million people were able to get relief because of the almost 200 of the 330 million people in America were able to get some kind of financial relief from illegal banking practices by people like Stripe, PayPal, Apple Pay, Patreon, the companies like Synapse, and $5 billion in civil money penalties. So that's what they're fighting for you. That's why it's called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and not the Banking Financial Protection Bureau. And so what the Senate Republicans just did was they made it okay for people like Andreessen, Stripe, PayPal, Apple Pay, Patreon, people like Synapse to screw you and debank you. Senate Republicans on Wednesday moved to allow payment apps like Venmo, PayPal to return to ideological debanking. So now the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had a rule that stopped it, and now the Republicans in the Senate just voted to make that happen again, to let Venmo and PayPal debank you. Repealing a rule implemented just in December, by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They just put a rule in to save you from being debanked by Venmo and PayPal, and the Republicans just voted to get rid of that rule, and that's why Elon Musk wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So you're being lied to by Elon and anybody like Andreessen when they tell you that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is not on your side. They are. They're the only thing standing between you and places like PayPal and Venmo. Repeal of the rule would leave users of the apps in limbo, as the laws protecting consumers would still be in place, but the rule enforcing that law and the Bureau with the capacity to enforce it would not be in place. So they're trying to get rid of the CFPB. The vote on Wednesday afternoon won support of every Senate Republican who voted, with the exception of Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley's, he's got his mind right on this, who has regularly broken with his party in support of populist economic policies. The resolution to repeal the rule did not require the typical 60 votes, meaning Republicans could repeal the debanking rule with just 51 votes and without needing a Democratic support. In order to repeal to go into effect, the House also has to pass a companion measure, Resolution 64, sponsored by Representative Mike Flood. With Democrats in opposition to repeal, only a handful of Republicans would need to vote to block the effort. So hopefully someone like Massey and someone like would vote against it.
Rand Paul?
Well, Rand Paul's in the Senate.
Oh, right.
The CFP rule, which took years to implement due to Wall Street opposition, covers any non-bank financial institution like PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Stripe, that sees at least 50 million transactions annually and is not a small business. In other words, simply accepting payment for a service would not trigger the rule, but if the app allows money to move from one party to another, as is the case with Google Pay, Apple Pay, Zelle, and others, then the app would be required to follow the relevant laws. The company formerly known as Twitter, which is now Elon Musk's X, would be covered if it added such a service, which is they want to do. Elon Musk has signaled he wants to do. He wants to do like his own version of PayPal at Twitter. The same is the case with WhatsApp, which has similarly discussed allowing users to make such transactions. So they want to act like a bank, but they don't want to be regulated like a bank. That's what this is all about.
This sounds very familiar, like the we're a publisher, but we're not a publisher.
That's right.
It sounds like the same game.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, who doubles as a White House employee, fought hard for the elimination of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So, again, billionaires are not your friend. Billionaires are not your friend. The move by Senate Republicans to repeal the debanking rule is rich, given that the alleged debanking by the CFPB was a major allegation leveled by the oligarchs to argue on behalf. So they use that bullshit argument that Andreessen just did on Joe Rogan, that bullshit argument that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau are the ones debanking people. That's a bullshit argument. They actually fight against it. The CFPB does not debank consumers for ideological reasons, but instead has fought that practice. So just like with the H-1B visa, how Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk fucking lied to you about it, they're lying to you about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and debanking. What's it's designed to do is to make sure that we aren't foreclosing to people options that are available to them. They don't mean foreclosing like, what they mean is they're going to not give you the information you need. He's bastardizing that word. Senator Deb Fischer, a Nebraska Republican who narrowly avoided being upset in 2024 by an independent populist opponent, Dan Osborne, voted to move forward on the resolution. No kidding. She told Dropsite News she is not concerned that repealing the rule would lead to conservatives being debanked. Oh, really? Really? Even though they did it to the truckers? Even though they're doing it to Christian organizations?
Oh, Rick Scott, that piece. Oh, my God.
So Representative Rick Scott, the guy who used to be the governor of Florida.
Yeah.
He
helped ruin Medicare.
He oversaw the largest he was responsible for the largest Medicare fraud in American history.
Do you know what he did? It's so utterly despicable. They just basically doubled the government, like just started ripping off the government because they don't ever dispute the charges.
That's right.
That was his big, bright idea. This scumbag.
He said he's going to support this. So he's supporting you being screwed over by PayPal, Venmo, Stripe,
Yeah.
and whatever Meta does, whatever Zuckerberg does, whatever Elon Musk does. And don't forget that they just take your money. They'll take it. They took Gray Zone's money at GoFundMe. They just took it. And they can close your PayPal account, and they don't have to give you your money back. I support it, said Rick Scott, who's a criminal. I think it makes sense. I've gone through each of these. We've got to continue to look at all these regulations. Senator John Hoeven, a Republican from North Dakota, said he supported repeal of the rule because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had pushed its authority too far. Asked if he was worried. So he's worried about the techno-feudal lords. That's who he's worried about. He's worried about the PayPals and the Stripes and the Venmos. Asked if he was worried that conservatives could be debanked as a result, he said he wasn't sure. I guess I'm not familiar enough with that to know the answer, he said, an hour before the vote.
Boy, it's good. Wow.
Far-right activist Laura Loomer has been banned from many online payment systems due to her politics, including PayPal, Uber, and GoFundMe. While the CFPB is often partisan, it's not wise to throw the baby out with the bathwater, Laura Loomer wrote on Wednesday. Republicans are now paving the way for more debanking in America. You can oppose the ideological bias of CFPB while also not voting to repeal consumer and free speech protections when we 100% have a monopoly in our country by big tech companies as it relates to payment services. And this is exactly what Steve Bannon is warning us about and warned about on our show. That these tech lords, like Elon Musk and the people who run PayPal and Zuckerberg, that these people want to rule over you. You'll own nothing. You'll have to use their service, and they can be able to cut you off. Yeah, so they can control you.
And that's why they want to get rid of cash.
And that's another reason why they want to get rid of cash. In 2021, PayPal and the Anti-Defamation League announced a joint effort to fight extremism and hate, which the ADL routinely defines as criticism of Israel. So they'll debank you if you criticize Israel. They'll say you're supporting a terrorist organization.
Boy, that should really help do away with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about the banks.
Right? That's right.
I mean, unbelievable.
Debanking a consumer for criticism of Israel violates non-discrimination laws, but with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule repealed, PayPal and the ADL would more easily be able to do so. So they're doing this so the ADL can go in and debank you.
The ADL is one of the most despicable groups that has ever existed on the planet.
So, because they support legit Nazis when it serves them.
Talk about an inverted...
So Mel says yesterday afternoon, Senate Republicans voted to repeal a new rule passed in December by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which prohibited payment apps like Venmo and PayPal from debanking users for political and ideological reasons. Yes, you read that right. Republicans voted in favor of more debanking. Because, you know, the financial system has never been weaponized against conservatives, right? And who is behind the biggest push for more debanking? The ADL, of course. These people deserve to lose so badly in 2026, it's not even funny. Well, the problem is...
Lose to who? Another pro-Zionist faction of the government?
That's right.
There's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. Molly White says, as I wrote recently, debanking is a crypto rallying cry only to the extent that it supports their deregulatory agenda. To be dropped the second that addressing it might result in consumer protection requirements, forcing companies like Coinbase to treat consumers properly. Right now, I know people who are locked out of their Coinbase.
Why?
For political reasons.
How's it? Wow.
Because they're being pressured by Israel. That's why, Kurt. Right now, I don't think I'm at liberty to say who. Because these people, this organization told me in confidence, so I'm not going to say who it is. Mm-hmm. And Coinbase cheers the demise of consumer. Why? Because they want to be able to do whatever Israel says and debank you. So I know people right now who are locked out of their Coinbase accounts and aren't able to get their money out. And the Republicans in Congress just voted to screw you harder, to debank you more, to make you more at the whim of people like Venmo and PayPal and Stripe and Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and the ADL.
Really, all kinds of crazy people could just be in charge if you can live.
And so Jared is saying that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Director Chopra warned the audience of Wall Street debanking and conservatives with. So there you go. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which Elon Musk made you think was the enemy. Same thing with Mark Andreessen. They're actually the enemy. So just like Steve Bannon told us, these are the guys who want to control you and they don't want any regulation. And they're getting it. They're getting it because you don't live in a fucking democracy. You live in an oligarchy. And the oligarchs are Elon Musk. The oligarchs are the guys who run PayPal and Venmo. The oligarchs are Zuckerberg. People worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
People whose names are on those Epstein lists they ain't going to come out.
That's right.
I say we change the name of the Gulf of America to the Gulf of where the F is the Epstein files.
So this is when MAGA is supposed to step up. So that's why people have to use Give, Send, Go now instead of GoFundMe. So that's why lefties use Give, Send, Go when they want to do crowdfunding. Because GoFundMe will just take your money if they don't agree with your politics, which they did to the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal.
I'm sure some intel service commanded it.
So this is all happening right now. And I don't know anybody else. Due Dissonance is telling you about it. I'm telling you about it. Lee Fong's telling you about it. But you're not going to hear about the truth about this. I don't think you're going to hear the truth about this anywhere in corporate media. Because corporate media wants you to be debanked. They want to have control over you. Their APEC controls the legislation. They control legislators. Okay, so I hope you followed that story, and I hope you know that the Republicans in Congress just screwed you. Hard. Come see us do stand-up in Baltimore, Hartford, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, and San Jose, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for the tickets.